Hi guys, it's Omer Khalil. I'm a CICC licensed consultant, and today we'll talk about exclusively Canada's study permits, the reasons for refusals, and the preconceived notion of where a person sees himself as a Canadian citizen in the near future. Okay, so you need to watch this video from beginning to end. It will give you vital information, and finally you can decide for yourself whether or not you should be studying in Canada and where does it actually lead you to as far as Canadian citizenship or permanent residence is concerned. In this video, we'll talk about the refusals, we'll talk about the cost of study, we'll talk about the tips and tricks that you can jot down when it comes to proving your residential ties with the country of your origin. All in all, it will help you to decide whether you should apply for Canada's student visa or study permit. Okay, so first thing is first, I'm going to talk about the refusals first. Refusals take place at two levels. It starts from you getting an offer letter from the relevant college, university, or an academic institute. So you've put in so much time and effort and money not to see a refusal letter. So to save yourself from unnecessary frustration, you need to make sure that you cover all of your bases. So the first mistake people make when they apply for an admission into a college or a university is that their English proficiency level is not good enough. Okay, so let's say if you have an IELTS English test and you got, let's say, 5.5 each band, that is not good enough. I would strongly recommend you to retake your test and get it somewhere 6.5 at least each band, and then apply to the relevant college or institute. Otherwise, you will get a refusal letter from the college. So you can forget about taking your application at the immigration officer or at the embassy level. Okay, so that's number one. Now, imagine if you're looking to get admission into a master's course, bachelor's course, or a postgraduate diploma course. I would strongly recommend you to get academic IELTS and get at least minimum 6.5 each band. And if you're looking to get an admission into top-ranked universities, okay, for example, in a law course in Toronto, Canada, then minimum your English test has to be 7.5 each band. Okay, so that's the first mistake applicants make when they apply for the admission. Okay, so make sure your English proficiency level is excellent. That's number one. Second reason of refusal is your statement of purpose has to be concise. It has to be complete, accurate, on the point, precise, concise, and has to add up to the college or university, the staff that's looking at your application. Okay, if there are any flaws in your statement of purpose, then you've just given yourself, given the staff at the college, a reason for refusing your application. Okay, so make sure your statement of purpose, it follows the guidelines, it follows the requirements. All right, now third reason for refusal. Now, I'm not going to talk about at the college level or from the academic institute's perspective. Now I'm shifting my focus from here to Canadian Embassy's perspective. Now we're thinking from immigration officers' perspective. So let's suppose you've gotten your admission into a certain study program, into a certain academic institute, and you've attached these documents with your study permit application. Immigration officer, he sees your application and he just skims through it. Yes, your English is good, your marks are good, everything is adding up, study purpose, study plan, statement of purpose, everything is bang on. You can still have your study permit application rejected if you are not able to show strong residential ties to the country of your origin. And that's because you're going over to Canada as a temporary resident. Your status is very fragile. Okay, so you have to prove to the immigration officer that after studying in Canada, I will leave the country and join, my family back home, or my job or business, whatever you have to say. You just have to make sure that you are able to show a strong connection with the country of your origin. In other words, you have to show a strong residential ties. So how do we show strong residential ties? So let's suppose if you are the wife and you've gone over to Canada to study a certain study program. Now you have to show to the immigration officer that you have a husband and who is looking after your kids back home. You have 2 kids, you have a husband, he has an active government job maybe, or he runs his active business, kids are going to school, you have assets in your name. So you need to add in all of these bunch of documents with your study permit application. These will prove that you have a strong connection with the country of your origin. Okay, so now you have covered all of your bases when it comes to your study permit application. From academic standpoint and from immigration officer's perspective, this is what he wants to see, and you're giving him what he wants to see on your study permit application. Okay, so that's it. It's good. You will get your, let's say if he decides to give you the study permit visa and you land into Canada. Now, before I talk about your actual studies in Canada and how you can convert it into work permit, PR, Canadian citizenship, a lot of people ask us about questions on the cost structure. How much does it cost to study in Canada? So I can't give you any specific answer for that because the cost depends on the nature of your study program and it depends on where are you studying in Canada. So let's say if you're aiming for a top ranked college or university, let's suppose University of Toronto, and you're doing a law course from there, then cost will be a lot higher than as opposed to a different province somewhere in Nova Scotia. At the college level, the cost will come down. So there isn't any right and wrong answer when it comes to cost, but generally speaking, if you're looking to do a master's, bachelor's, or postgraduate diploma course, you can look about, there's an estimated cost of about, it can start from somewhere 20,000 Canadian dollars to more. Okay, so this is the cost, tuition cost you have to pay, and that's the minimum cost. And if you are applying for using via STS, Student Direct Stream, then you have to pay the entire cost for the first year upfront to the college or to the actual institutes. Okay, so you have to pay this cost in advance. So that's the tuition fee for the college. Second requirement from the Canadian Embassy is, or I would say Canadian government, is that you have to show that you have enough funds to support yourself in Canada. Okay, you go over there as a student, now you need money at your disposal. So for this, you need to secure a guaranteed investment funds. GIC is the terminology called. So in simple terms, all you have to do is, let's say, just open up a bank account in Canada, put $10,000 in your account. As soon as you arrive in Canada, you will have access to your funds. Okay, so we talked about the refusals at the college level. We talk about refusals at the Canadian, from the immigration officer's perspective. We talked about the cost structure, the tuition cost, the GIC. I've spoken something about showing a strong residential connection, which is really important. Otherwise, your study permit application will be rejected. So that's everything I've spoken about when it comes to study permit. And now we will talk about this preconceived notion and idea of where a person sees himself as a Canadian citizen in the near future. Okay, so yes, it is possible for you to secure Canadian citizenship, but it's a step-by-step process. So number one, you have to complete your studies successfully. Okay, so once you graduate, you can apply for a work permit. You start working in Canada for a specific amount of time, let's say 1 year. After working in Canada, you can apply for Canadian PR using Canadian experience class. So because now you have racked up Canadian work experience at your end, you have Canadian qualification, educational credentials, you've worked in Canada, this will give you points when it comes to comprehensive ranking system. And if you can secure somewhere, let's say more than 600 points for CRS points, then you'll end up there is a high chance you'll end up getting your invitation to apply. And finally, you can apply for PR. So yes, it's possible that you work in Canada and then you can apply for PR. Once you become PR, you just have to maintain residency obligation for a specific amount of time. I would strongly recommend anyone who is a PR in Canada, he should stay in Canada for at least 3 years, because this will be a straightforward case when he applies for Canadian citizenship, as far as the immigration officer is concerned, because he will see your application as if there aren't any complications, you haven't left the country, you've been paying your taxes. So it's a straightforward case, and you'll get your citizenship within the normal processing times as mentioned on the government's website. So yes, it is possible for you to become a Canadian citizen, but it can't be right away. It's a process. You have to abide by the rules and regulations, and then you can put yourself on the path to becoming a Canadian citizen. So this was pretty much everything about study permits and where these can take you as far as Canadian citizenship and permanent residence is concerned. So if you have any comments, questions, or comments, you can put them in the comments below, or you can send me an email at omer@macimmigration.ca. I am a CICC's licensed consultant. And if you are looking to get yourself represented on any of your Canadian immigration applications or study permit applications or any visa applications as far as Canada is concerned, you can contact me, book an appointment, and we'll take it up from there. So I've spoken enough about study permits. We'll come back with more videos, and take care for now. Okay, bye-bye.